Welcome to Journey to a Million, episode 16. We made it. Another episode here, another week of off-season previews, and those continue with the Denver Broncos this first half, and then the second half we have Carolina Panthers. But first here, Denver Broncos. We have on our guest, we have Alex from ISO Football. He's our Broncos expert today. So, Alex, how you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun, and it's the whole Journey to a Million squad here. Myself, Jared Valesky, and Zack. So everyone's here. We got a four-man crew, and we'll be talking about the Denver Broncos. And with that, let's get started. So let's talk first a little bit about last year, the 2021 to 2022 season here. And Alex, I'll start with you. How would you grade how that season went for the Denver Broncos?
I'd say probably a B minus. I mean, they like 7-10, I think. They're pretty high expectation, somewhat high expectations heading in. They had a pretty solid roster besides obviously quarterback, but injuries hit them hard and kind of just sputtered out from there with inconsistent quarterback play and just playing with a tough division as well. So probably a B minus, below average type of thing.
I think that's a fair way to look at it. I know there's some high expectations in there as well. Just want to talk about Drew Lock quickly. There's that clip. I'll never forget with Drew Lock. He is the first, same first name as me. No, it's him dancing and that's him rapping to Put On. I think that's like one of my favorite clips of all of NFL, football. And it is awesome. So we see him go now. He's gone, but I just thought that was a great clip to share from, and I know it was a few years ago, but from him being there last year. But yeah, this Denver team, they knew, they're just a few pieces away, at least it seems, right? So they went out there and they got some guys, right? Russell Wilson, trade for him. That was the big story. A move that was not, or that move was the big move, but a move, that not many people I thought talked about. Randy Gregory signed that 5-year deal for $70 million. I think it's a big signing there for the Broncos. And then the other one that I really like, Zack and I being Packer fans, Nathaniel Hackett, hiring him was I think that was a fundamental move. That was a big move, getting him as your head coach. And yeah, Alex, I'll start with you, or I'm going to go to you again here. Rank these moves from 1 to 3, 1 being the best, 3, rank them from which move you like the most.
I would say obviously the Wilson one would be 1 for me. I think obviously he's a really good quarterback, and that solves a need that they've had ever since Manning retired. And then probably the Hackett hire at 2nd. I like it. Seems like a really good guy and a good sort of leader to have for the team. And I think he'll call plays as well, which is a pretty solid upgrade from Pat Shurmur, who's not great, not that. And then I would say the Gregory one probably at 3. I wasn't a huge fan of that deal, given he's never played a full season. And obviously that's a lot of money you're giving him, but if it pays off, that'll definitely be worth it. And
yeah, Zack, Jared, you guys like those moves as well? I mean, getting Russell Wilson, right? I mean, that was a move we talked about. That's going to be big for the Broncos. And of course with Hackett as well. What do you guys all think?
Yeah, that's the big one. You can go, Zack.
The Hackett thing is similar to the Dolphins with who's the guy that got
Mike McDaniels.
Yeah, Mike McDaniels. They didn't call plays. LaFleur and Shanahan did, but obviously they learned. They knew the game plan. Like they knew everything that was going into calling the plays. They didn't actually call the plays. So while it's not as great as if they did call the plays, they still have that knowledge. So I think I do like the hire. We'll have to see how it goes. But obviously Russell Wilson trade makes them Super Bowl contenders probably. I mean, it's a tough division, but if they're able to make the playoffs, they have a good chance to anyone else. And the Randy Gregory, it gives them another edge aside from Bradley Chubb. So I do like that move. It kind of replaces Von Miller, who's been there for a while before they trade him this season. But like Alex said, he hasn't played a full season, so it'll be interesting to see if he can do that with the Broncos.
Yeah, like you said, Zack. I mean, the Russell Wilson trade is obviously the biggest one. They have a young running back, obviously, with Javonte Williams. So they got a future going with him. They can build around Wilson, like I'm sure they're going to do. And like you said, Super Bowl favorites, or not favorites, but contenders. But with the Nathaniel Hackett hire, Alex, I want to ask you a question. Was there a thought in your mind, since obviously they got Hackett from the Packers, that they would bring in Rodgers?
Oh yeah, I was really pulling for that. And I thought it would definitely be possible, but obviously it didn't happen. But yeah, I definitely thought that it was a possibility.
That would have been crazy,
Yeah.
But yeah, Hackett. I mean, Zack mentioned Mike McDaniels as well. I mean, both those guys, great football minds, and I think they're going to both do great in their head coaching spots. I like both of those hires, and I'm just interested to see how that's going to work out too. And there's some guys now with these moves happening for we do a lot of fantasy football here, and I'm wondering, their dynasty values. I have some questions here, Alex, and we'll all talk about it, right? But I know Zack. I'll leave Zack for the running back, but Jerry Jeudy, I guess and Cortland Sutton as well. Both those receivers. I guess now with bringing Wilson in, their dynasty value has got to be increase for sure, right, Alex?
Yeah, for sure. I would say especially Jeudy because he's got age on his side, opposed to Sutton, who's a little bit older and has had injuries too. But yeah, definitely both of them, I would say a big boost in dynasty rankings. Because obviously that's a huge upgrade over Locke. So yeah, for sure. Looking good for them going forward.
Do you think it gives the biggest edge or who gets the biggest benefit from the Wilson trade? Is it Jeudy or is it like a Tim Patrick or Cortland Sutton?
I would say probably Jeudy because I think he has probably the highest ceiling talent-wise out of all of those guys. And he's kind of struggled in his first 2 years from being a first-round pick. So I would side on Jeudy for that one.
Yeah, that's a fair way to look at it. I guess I'll ask it. Javonte Williams, I was a guy who had a big, even a big year last year I was playing carries with Melvin Gordon. What can we see from him next year? I mean, that's a guy I'm certainly looking at, even in single season leagues, as a potential, nice running back, RB2 maybe. But what do you think about Javonte Williams?
Yeah, I totally agree. I had him on my team this year, and he did pretty well for me. And they haven't brought back Gordon, who's a free agent. So as of now, Williams is the go-to guy right now. So, yeah, he had a pretty good season, and I'm sure he'll build off of that with more carries next year.
I saw Melvin Gordon said he didn't want to play second fiddle to Williams. So I don't see Melvin Gordon coming back.
Yeah.
And I had Williams. I have him in Dynasty. And then I had him in the podcast league we ran last year. And obviously I won that league. So obviously I was happy with that.
Oh,
I think this year it's going to be great because they're going to be scoring a lot more. We'll probably get more receptions, obviously more carries with Melvin Gordon gone. So he's going to get that full workload, kind of like we saw against the Chiefs last year when Gordon missed that game.
yeah.
Yep.
Zach with a little flex there, showing he won the league.
Of course,
Love to see
we'll
it.
be doing things next year.
Williams had that.
He won't
Gave
repeat.
that value.
As I said, a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. And that's what Zack did in fantasy. He's not winning again. Come on. But let's talk, about some of the needs now, right? I mean, they made all these great moves, but I still think there might be some holes. I know the running back thing right now, too. I think Javonte Williams as your lead guy is great, but, is there really that depth there, Alex, right now? Do they need to go out and maybe get a guy, maybe, build internally, draft someone? What do you think?
Are you talking about for running back?
I'm talking about running back. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think they probably should get another guy behind Williams. They have, I think Mike Boone is the second in line right there. And he's a decent back, but obviously we had the 1-2 punch with Gordon and Williams, which is really beneficial, especially with how often running backs get injured. So if they could grab a guy in day 3 of the draft that hasn't really had a lot of carries, so he has a lot of tread left on his tires to kind of complement Williams, I think that would be a good idea for them.
Yeah. Cornerback also. I know we have, Patrick Surtain, right? I mean, you have a solid guy there, but Are there any worries otherwise, with the depth with the cornerback?
Yeah, I definitely say there are. I don't think it was this year, it was the year before. There were a bunch of injuries in the secondary, and that kind of prompted them to get Surtain. But they have Ronald Darby, who's pretty solid player. But otherwise, slot is still a big need, and they signed Kwan Williams, but I mean, he's kind of a aging veteran, so I think looking at the draft as well would be, or especially with the earlier picks, cornerback would definitely be up there.
Is Bryce Callahan still a free agent? I mean, maybe they bring him back, so that could be a possibility.
Yeah, I think they could. They haven't yet, but I wouldn't be opposed to that if they did.
So I have to mention this because Zach wrote this down. Zach has Bobby Wagner down as maybe an additional move. Would you be a fan of that, opposed to that?
I'd love that. I don't know if it'll happen because it sounds like the Ravens are kind of leading that race right now. But if it happened, I would love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly want a guy like Bobby Wagner as your middle linebacker, right? And yeah, we'll see. It seems reports are leaning towards the Ravens right now. But looking at the draft, no first round picks here, yeah, for the Broncos. When you go out and get guys, that's how it is sometimes. But they do have that second from the Rams, and then they have the 2/3 and 2/4. And I guess are there any prospects that any of you guys have looked at that you think would be perfect as a Denver Bronco?
Really no one in specific, I don't think. I would just say get some depth, like you guys mentioned earlier. I mean, they have a solid team, just maybe fill some holes that they have, just to improve slightly. They've gotten a lot better, obviously, over the offseason. So draft a few depth people, whether it be like a lineman or even, I don't know, anyone. Just get some depth.
Yeah, once you start getting past the first round, it's kind of hard to, I guess, like mock draft type thing, just because there's so much movement. And players can move up a round or two or fall back a round or two. But I could see them going after maybe a D tackle to kind of replace Shelby Harris, who they sent to Seattle in that Russell Wilson trade. So I could see that being a possibility. Otherwise, if they don't sign on a corner, maybe get another piece there that would help them.
Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. I think depth is definitely one of the priorities. Like corner would definitely be one, and then D-line for sure. And then I would think right tackle has kind of been an issue over the last few years. I'd like them to hopefully kind of address that if they could, and middle linebacker would be one more as well.
Yeah, there's certain needs there for the Broncos, but overall team's looking solid like we said. But how about that division, the AFC West? So we'll talk about the Broncos schedule here and how this is going to go, Alex. I'm going to read the 17 opponents for the Denver Broncos in 2022 to 2023 season. And then you're going to tell me the first record that comes to your mind. We're going to write it down, and we'll come back to you to see how you do when the season comes to a close.
Before you start, Colts, for sure. Colts are going to win that game. Don't even say they're going to. All right?
All right. Sounds good.
So with that, let's get started here. Okay, here are your opponents. Hosting Kansas City, hosting the LA Chargers, hosting the Raiders, hosting the Texans, hosting the Colts, hosting the Cardinals, hosting the 49ers, going to Jacksonville, going to Kansas City, going to Vegas, going to LA to play the Chargers, going to LA to play the Rams, going to Tennessee, going to Seattle, going to Baltimore, going to Carolina, and then hosting the Jets. What do you think?
I would say maybe 11-6 roughly. I mean, with that tough of a division, those division games aren't gimmies. So if they could split or get close to splitting some of those, that would be great. And then there's obviously some lower tier opponents on there that I think they could get some easy wins off of. I
made a post. So I was doing a little bit of Q&A with the fans last week, and this was actually one of the questions. It was, how do you think the Broncos are going to fare? I went 10-7. I know it might be a little low there, but I just went with it, and it goes back to the division they're in, right? The AFC West. This first year, putting this team kind of together. I don't know necessarily how they're going to perform. Getting a new guy under center. I certainly think, they could certainly achieve, more than my 10-7 record, but I'm going to go 10-7.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. Definitely close to 11-6. So.
Zach, Jared?
You can go, Zach.
All right, well, I'll go. I'll say 12-5. I say they go 4-2 in the division, take both from Kansas City, lose one to the Chargers, one to the Raiders.
What about your 9-8 Jets?
I think that's going to be one of the 8 losses for the Jets.
Okay, well, I was going to actually agree with Alex. I'd say 11-6. I have them going 3-3 in the division. I think they'll split with KC as well, or Kansas City. Yeah, it's a tough division, like you guys said. So yeah, I think 11-7 or 11-6 would be a pretty decent record.
Yeah, I mean, all those, potentially all playoff records. The records you guys said, my 10-7 might be on the fence there a little in the just how it is, but we'll have to wait and see with that. But we like to poke a little bit of fun because we did this for the Jets, Alex, and Zack said the Jets are going 9-8. He said book it.
Wow,
so,
that's
bold. Yeah, we've had some bold ones. We had Jared say the Colts are going 13-4.
It's not bold. That's just the truth.
So
Jets one is better than the Colts one.
Oh,
Zach's a dynasty holder. He's got some bias for the Jets. So
we've had some interesting ones. It's a lot of fun. But this was a lot of fun, Alex. Great football mind. Always fun to have you on. Maybe, during the season, we'll bring you back. Maybe we'll see how that goes. But this was, a lot of fun. And I mean, with that, anyone have anything else here before we move on to the second half?
Sure.
All right, awesome. So with that, let's now talk some Carolina Panthers football. Episode 16 of Journey to a Million resumes on the podcast. No guest for the second half of the episode, just like last week here. Nobody. We had someone bail on us yet again, and that's okay. We'll cover the Panthers. The Carolina Panthers we'll be talking about here. Colin Ratzak's favorite team is how we describe them here in Wisconsin. But yeah, let's talk about this past Carolina Panthers season. Zach, I'll go to you as our Panther expert to start this, and I'll start with you. How would you grade the Carolina Panthers their past season here?
I mean, I know I was an expert on them, but I would say I would give them a C. I think they got to see some good flashes of players like Jace Horn, obviously Billy Burns, right? And Brian Burns. Brian Burns had a good season. That defense is coming around. They have the young pieces in place, and offensively started out decent season. Obviously, they got Sam Darnold, who had a few good games, and then went back to his Jet ways. And then they brought in Cam Newton, came back, and with CMC's injury, their offense wasn't the greatest. So I'll give them a C, and hopefully they can turn things around offensively this year.
Yeah, I think that was the story, right? I mean, CMC is injuries. I think that was a big thing here for this Panthers squad. I'd probably go, around the C range as well. It wasn't really exactly an exciting year, only winning 5 games. But again, this team wasn't expected to really do much. Jared, where are you in the grading?
Yeah, about around the same. When CMC went down, we had another season of, is it Chuba Hubbard, which he had a few good games, but they just don't look the same. Obviously, Sam Darnold and Cam Newton coming back, just not the MVP self he was. It's just they did what they could with what they had. I mean, CMC is going down as the big one, obviously, but yeah, I'd say about a C.
Yeah, we mentioned Darnold. Underwhelming numbers: 9 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. It was a tough stretch for him near the middle. PJ Walker, being a part of that team is someone Zach and I do enjoy. XFL legend,
Houston Roughnecks.
Even though I was not a fan of them, I was a Vipers fan, but that's okay.
When is the XFL coming back?
2023, I think.
So next
year. It was
year?
coming back, yeah.
I really missed that,
It was some
Houston
good stuff.
Roughnecks that's a good squad.
But yeah, let's talk now, about the Panthers. They go to the offseason. Certainly an interesting situation. You're in this rebuild, but you want to still secure some key pieces. So what they did, they went out. DJ Moore extended him 3 years, $61 million. They go out Dante Jackson, 3 or $31.5 million. And then they went out there and they tried to get a quarterback in Deshaun Watson. Quarterback being the weakness of this team, at least one of the big weaknesses here. Go out there and get a guy, and they tried to in Watson, but they didn't get him. He goes to Cleveland, probably better for Watson himself. And I know the offer we were told was better we don't know if the offer was better, do we? But we know contract wise, it was better for Watson, right?
I don't think that they were going to give up 5 first-round picks like the Browns did. So I mean, it's hard to beat that offer, anyways, from what the Browns gave them.
I mean, the Texans accepted the Panthers offer, I'm pretty sure, and Watson just turned it down because of that 3rd and 4th year guaranteed. And then obviously he got that huge fully guaranteed contract from the Browns, which if I had to guess, I'd say the Panthers weren't offering. But I think Browns are a better situation for him anyways currently.
For sure. I think that's how it is. This defense, as we talk, they're trying to replace some of these guys that, from the Kuechly days, right? Shaq Thompson, those guys, right? Now Kuechly retired, of course, but some of those older guys, that were on that defense, you got to replace them because they're just, their time has come. I know they went out and got Gilmore. That was a big story, last year, right? When they got him, brought him up on the squad. It's just
he'll be coming back.
I don't know. I don't know. That's why I bring that up, because this defense has gotten older. I think they need to replenish them with younger guys. I think through the draft, perfect way, because I don't know about maybe they get a quarterback this draft, right? But I certainly see this team, drafting, building up more capital, on the defensive side, getting pieces that they could maybe develop into, some of those guys we've seen in years past for this Panthers defense is what I'm saying. So I don't know about the future for Gilmore. What do you think, Zach?
I don't think he's coming back to the Panthers. I think the big reason that they went out and got him is because Jace Horn, obviously a rookie, and then he did get injured. But I think they just wanted some veteran presence to kind of help teach Horn and kind of help mold them into their next top corner, kind of like Josh Norman was back in the day. But I mean, they do have some young pieces. Obviously, they have Horn, they have Burns, they have the D tackle. I forget his name now, but they have some young pieces, and obviously they have some old pieces, like you were saying. I think their defense is all right. They just obviously they have to figure out the quarterback situation before they can even think they can compete for a Super Bowl.
And let's talk about the quarterback situation, right? I think they're sitting at the 6th overall pick. Do we think, I talked about them potentially maybe going for a quarterback this draft, maybe getting those other guys on defense. Who knows where they're going? Jared, where do you think they're going?
Yeah, I've seen mock drafts saying Malik Willis. So they're going for a quarterback. I would guess that makes the most sense for them. They've been struggling over the last few years with quarterbacks. And finally, if they do get a solid quarterback, maybe Colin Ratzak can get his first Panthers jersey of a recent player that's currently playing. He has a Kuechly, and I think, who else does he have?
Julius Peppers,
yeah. So maybe he can get
he has a CMC one, I think.
I don't think he does.
He did get one, I think.
He did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check with him to verify, but yeah, Jared brings up a great point here. Malik Willis, but is it Willis? Is it Pickett? Who do we think's going? I think that might be, one of the toss-ups. Obviously, you take whoever you view as best available. Matt Corral being the other quarterback. There's 3 guys who are going.
Desmond Ryder, that's I think he's kind of been.
I don't know if he's going to sneak up that much. I
don't think he'll go 6, but they maybe trade back to the late teens, around 20-ish. They might be able to, but
that's because I don't. Do we think he might even go in? There's a chance that he could fall in the 2nd round, right?
I think a lot of these quarterbacks are kind of none of them kind of stand out above the rest. I think Malik Willis is probably the top one right now, but depending on the team and depending what they kind of think of all these players, there's nobody that I think consensus is the top quarterback. So it could kind of go either way.
The beauty of this draft is, the quarterbacks, they could go, for example, some people have Malik Willis going as high as 2 and maybe as low as in the teens, right? And, other than Hutchinson being, a consensus number 1 overall pick, it seems at this point, Jacksonville, but it just seems, other than that these quarterbacks, are fluctuating in spots. And with that, it all comes about like value, right? I mean, maybe if you can get them in the teens, why not trade down, right? I know that's something we've brought up in past episodes. That could be something we see from the Panthers, potentially trading down, maybe getting more draft capital, trading down to maybe like 15, 16, or like Zack mentioned, getting Ritter from Cincinnati, getting him there, or there's options here for the Panthers in that first round. And other than, quarterback, what other spots do we think they're going to target here?
I mean, I think they might need some more weapons. Obviously, getting DJ Moore back was a big one. He's a very underrated receiver. They don't have many weapons, so I mean, obviously, I would think they'd use a quarterback for their first round pick. I mean, even what's his name? Where is he? Matt Corral. For the draft, even his for quarterback, you said even maybe he'll even go up farther than Malik Willis, but I doubt that. But in their second rounds, I'm looking for maybe receivers. They have their running back position down, but we'll see it. Maybe some defense.
Yeah, I think they definitely do need maybe another weapon. Obviously, Robbie Anderson last year wasn't really what they were expecting when they traded for him. He could have a turnaround season, obviously with a better quarterback if they do find one. But another weapon obviously would never hurt. Obviously, we see the teams like the Rams who have Allen Robinson, Van Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, and then you have teams like the Bengals who have 3 great receivers too. So a lot of teams are loading up on weapons. But you can also never have enough O-line. I don't know if that'd be a first-round thing for the Panthers just because they have other needs that are more serious at this point. But, yeah, they definitely have a couple places they could go.
I'm wondering sorry, but we talked, Jimmy G, it sounded like, they were working to trade. Like it sounds like, at least, San Francisco, it sounded like he was going to be gone, right? And where is he going to end up, right? I mean, that's my question. And I'm not saying Carolina is the team, but, it seems like a lot of teams have satisfied their quarterback needs, except Carolina. I'm just wondering, possibilities. Could this happen?
Well, there was an article that said Jimmy G might not. I mean, they might keep him. They're not gonna. I think they're not gonna give him up. Just give up a not great, but a good quarterback just because they already have a starter there. So they're probably gonna hold on to him, maybe even into the season. I saw, or even through the season, based on how good Trey Lance is. They're gonna test him out first.
I've seen that article, but I don't see it just because how much they gave up for Trey Lance. I don't think you can do the whole kind of on a Rodgers approach or Mahomes approach where you can. I guess Mahomes didn't sit that long, but I don't think you can give up 3 first-round picks for a player and then have him sit for 3 years. I think it's a 1 year, maybe 2 years. But also, we talked about in the 49ers episode with Nacho, his cap hit is a lot, especially for a backup quarterback. It's just not something that a team can do if they want to compete. But it's also the injury thing. He did have shoulder surgery after the season. So I think that's a similar thing with Baker. A lot of teams aren't really sure how his health is. And they just don't really feel comfortable giving up what the teams want for Baker and Jimmy right now. So it'll be interesting to see how those two situations unfold. But if I was a Panthers fan, I would rather have Baker than Jimmy, I think.
Well, and it gets tough because looking at quarterbacks left, I mean, you mentioned it, Baker and Jimmy. I mean, those are the 2 main ones left. And I don't know if those are, options to be that enthused about, right? I think going through the draft might be the way here, but what do you think those squads are going to do with those cars? I mean, I know it's a different team, but it just bring up the question. There's quarterbacks available in the trade market. There's quarterbacks available via the draft. And, at the end of the day, it comes up who Carolina thinks is going to be the best. And I guess with a little guess here, I'll start with Zack here. Who do you think is going to be under center for the Carolina Panthers this next season?
I'll go with Baker.
My problem with that is just because they're asking for at least a first out of Baker, and a team like the Panthers, who is in a rebuild, isn't going to want to give up that much for a quarterback
I don't
like that.
see them
Obviously,
giving up a first round, especially because it's number 6 overall. They don't have a second or third rounder. So I think either they'd have get creative with something in future draft picks, or maybe just give up, I don't know, one of those aging pieces on defense that's maybe a little bit older, but can help the Browns this year and like next year when Browns trying to compete. I could also see Baker just getting released. There's some reports coming out that if the Browns can't find a trade partner getting something for him, they're just going to release him. I think he's on this 5th-year option right now. So it's not like they're really giving up a whole lot of value there. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think Baker is just, if he gets the free agency, I can see him going to Carolina.
Jared?
I mean, I don't see them really going out and trading for one. I can't see that happening, especially with them being through a rebuild right now. So I mean, they might just have to go with, Bridgewater or whoever it may be. I don't see them trading for someone, but it could happen. I don't know.
I'm gonna go simple. I'm gonna say Sam Darnold. I'll say Sam Darnold starts, and I think there's gonna be someone watching him. And I'm going to say it's going to be Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh. I'm going to go double bolt there.
You think even if they draft someone, they're not going to start him? They're going to keep Sam Darnold out there?
Yep, I do. I think for a little bit, at least. Half season, maybe.
I don't see that happening, especially if he's the first quarterback drafted.
Reports are saying Darnold is in the lead right now for the starting QB job. So I think,
Yeah.
I
did see that, but
I think it could happen. Because who knows, is Kenny Pickett going to be ready right away? Week 1. I don't know if you start. I mean, obviously what you guys are saying, it wouldn't hurt to, right? But are they going to? I don't think they will. And other than that, they might draft then, if Sam Darnold is the guy in the lead for the job, maybe they don't draft a quarterback, first round, but I think they do draft a quarterback in this draft. And I think that he's going to, whoever it is, they're going to be sitting back. They're going to be watching a few games of Darnold before they'll step into the game. Or maybe they'll come in later in late drives. But I think it'll be like that for the first few games.
I feel as if, if you draft a quarterback, you're probably going to try to build a team around him. Obviously, he's going to be your future. So I would think that if you draft a quarterback, I would think they would start right away. I mean, I don't know if they'd put Sam Darnold in over him after the last few seasons. He hasn't had much success. Maybe just get Kenny Pickett, if they do go with Pickett, whoever it is, Willis, whatever, get him some experience, at least for a year, get some experience under his belt, get some games, and then develop from there.
I mean, it is a strategy a lot of teams use of seeing that quarterback. So you saw the Packers did it with Rodgers. They're going to do it again with Love. Obviously, that kind of fell apart, but Mahomes had a year. Trey Lance is sitting over in San Francisco. So you see it a lot. But I think the common thing with a lot of those teams is the quarterback that they have currently. Yeah, it's just they can compete with the quarterback they have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see the Panthers competing with Sam Darnold.
And look, we'll have to wait and see. But I just, let's see what happens. I think that's how to put that. And we'll talk now about the schedule for the upcoming year. Who will we see? And here are the teams that the Panthers will see. So they're going to go to Atlanta, go into Baltimore, hosting Atlanta, hosting New Orleans, hosting Tampa Bay, hosting Arizona, hosting San Francisco, hosting Cleveland, hosting Pittsburgh, going to Cincinnati, going to LA to play the Rams, going to New Orleans, play the Saints, going to Tampa, going to Seattle, hosting Denver, hosting Detroit, and then going to New York to play the Giants. So I think, is it my turn to start? I think it is. So looking through the schedule, kind of tough. We don't know how the squad is going to look to start the year, of course. I'm going to go, I'll go 6-11.
Generous. Very generous.
Very generous. And I'm going 6-11 nicely because I'm hoping McCaffrey's going to be healthy.
That's the whole question, I think. If McCaffrey's healthy, maybe he'll get him a few games. But just going off of recent years, I'm probably going to go with 4-13. Opposite of the Colts.
Yeah, I don't like this team, but obviously NFC is not that great. The division is okay. I think they go probably. I'll give them 2-4 in the division. I think they take both from Atlanta.
That's what I'm seeing.
Overall, I'm gonna go 5-12.
I had them splitting Atlanta, and I said they'd take one from the Saints.
And I think this team could upset, any team in the NFL can upset a team any given week. I think, I don't know. They could beat Detroit, right? They could beat, the Giants. There's Seahawks right now. They could win some of those games, but we'll wait and see. And we got those stats now written down. And I guess with that, you guys have anything else here?
Colin Ratzak needs to get a jersey pretty soon.
I think so too. He's gonna have to get one of whoever they draft.
Baker Mayfield. Mayfield Panthers jersey.
Baker Mayfield. No.
He would look good in blue.
But with that, to wrap up here, this wraps up episode 16, and then next Monday, Jordan drew the sports group. Jordon Lawrenz is on vacation yet again, so episode 56 will feature myself and a guest. We'll be talking about some baseball. We'll be doing our MLB season preview. You'll get to see who the guest is on Monday's episode, so wait and see for that. But yeah, thank you all for listening to yet another episode of Jordan and Drew, the Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.